Hi, everyone out there. We are very lucky today to have with us our very own Juan Benitez. What we're going to be talking about is the census, which is still going on and is more important than ever before. And because Juan is leading not only on our campus, but in our city, some of the most important initiatives with the census, he's got a lot to tell us. So, Juan, can you talk to us a little bit about what are you doing with all the changes and how have they affected the census?
Sure, and thank you for the invitation, Provost Jersky. Appreciate the opportunity. So I think the big shift, as with much of the rest of our lives, has been to transition what primarily would have been an in-person outreach effort, especially for our harder to count populations, to now a remote virtual effort. So everyone is doubling down on social media, on phone calls, on Zoom meetings, on virtual meetings, really with an emphasis on two things. One is that it's still extremely important to complete the census in one of three ways: online, by phone, or by mail. Three ways: online, by phone, or by mail. And I'm more than happy to provide the website before we finish up today. The other is that there's still a very important educational campaign going on why it's important to complete the census. So one, it's a requirement by our Constitution, but it has major implications to have a complete and accurate count. So right now, if we just took city of Long Beach, we're at about a 60%, slightly less than 60% completion rate. So we have about 40% more to go. So that's sort of what our emphasis has been right now, along with the city's Complete Count Committee, our community partners, is to get those other 40% of our community members counted.
And Juan, that's such an interesting number. So is 60% sort of a good number at this point, or an average number, or not such a good number? What's your intuition?
Great question, right? It's all relative to how everybody else is doing. So nationwide, we're about in the middle of cities of comparable size to us. If we take like the largest cities in California, we're fluctuating between 9 and 10 in terms of reporting rates. So not terrible, but I think we could be doing a lot better. And I think one of the things to consider, Provost, is we have a very high percentage of what are considered hard to count populations. Right. A high percentage of non-native English speaking households, high percentage of seniors, of children 0 to 5, of students. We have a young population. So because of the demographic makeup of our region, we have a bigger challenge because those are traditionally populations that have been historically harder to count. So it sort of magnifies the importance of having a complete count for a city with our demographic profile.
Right, and I think thank you for clarifying that, because I mean, we know, you know, and I know that Long Beach is number one, and we need to do a bit better, especially given the importance of the census. And maybe you can just sort of tell us very briefly, why does the census matter now more than ever?
Sure. So I'm thinking in threes today, Provost Jersky. So three big reasons. One, our Constitution mandates that we have a census every 10 years. So it's part of our constitutional commitment to do so. But I think related to that, our political representation is founded on a representative democracy, and an accurate and complete census count assures that everyone that is being represented by our elected and appointed officials has a voice. And so congressional districts, local districts are all drawn up based on an accurate and complete census count. So this will have implications this coming next year election cycle for us. And aligned with that, resources, policies, programs, services specifically meant to address community issues, address environmental issues, support our education and our health systems, are based on an accurate and complete census count. So actual funding in the billions of dollars is determined by, one, where people live, but second, the demographic makeup of our populations. So federal funds for schools, for instance, that target specific populations that we serve are based on an accurate and complete census count. So I would say those three areas. One, our Constitution includes it. Second, our political system, political representation, and thereby our voices are dependent on it. And then thirdly, policies and funding and programming is based on the data collected vis-a-vis the census.
Great, that's really helpful. And I mean, I also know as a relatively new citizen of the United States that the census is and always has been secure and has no contact with any of the, say, immigration
That's
or
right.
tax or any other things. So everyone should feel completely safe about responding to the census.
Absolutely, and I would reiterate that last point, Provost, that census officials are sworn in. They have taken an oath to uphold confidentiality. No census data is shared with any other agencies, even within the government itself. And quite frankly, the online census, if everyone goes to my2020census.gov, it's only 9 questions, Provost Jersky. And I don't say only to minimize or trivialize the importance of those 9 questions, but it basically takes the time that it would take for us to brush our teeth in the morning. And yet, having that count, you know, is essential to our well-being, and particularly to our most vulnerable community members that oftentimes don't appear on any data that then policies and funding determine that.
So Juan, given the importance of it, and I must say, I absolutely confirm what you say. When I went to mycensus2020.gov and I did the 9 questions, and I was almost disappointed that it took so quick.
That's right.
But one of the things that I am curious about is somebody who doesn't have access to a computer or has trouble with internet or something like that. Are there ways that you and your staff have been working to help people get that access? Or?
Yes. Excellent question, Provost. So there are many organizations right now in Long Beach, community-based organizations that are highly focused on the census right now. So although folks still have the option, and it will continue to be an option to do the census online, a lot of what's been going on is based on those early returns, right? About 59.1%, I believe is the exact number, in Long Beach have responded to the census. The focus has now been on that 40.9% that haven't responded. So the follow-up there is occurring vis-a-vis phone banks that have been set up to actually contact people. So someone could be calling you, it would be a census official, and they would identify themselves as such, and you have the option to do the census by phone in multiple languages.
Wow.
In addition, if your household has been one that has been identified as not completing the census yet, in paper form, you will be receiving something, if you haven't already, in the mail, and you can fill out the census that way in multiple languages as well. So those 2 additional options, by phone and by filling out the paper in hard copy, are still available. And so the efforts have also been maximized that way as well, because we also realize that because of digital access and just, not being completely comfortable in filling things out online, there are still 2 options by phone. So if you go to the my2020census.gov website, there is a phone number there. There are links to access the information in multiple languages, and you can just get the phone number there, or someone will call you, or if you receive something in the mail, all the information is there and accessible in multiple languages as well.
Fantastic. So basically, you and all the people working to make this successful have thought of just about every possibility. So you can do it online, you can do it by paper, you can do it on the phone. Couldn't be easier. So that's great.
That's right.
Given the unprecedented nature of the COVID-19 pandemic, what have been some of the hardest issues you've had to deal with that you, I'm sure, weren't predicting?
Yeah, so the biggest one is physical access to doing outreach activities. So as an example, Provost Jersky, we had set up 4 virtual kiosks on our own campus.
Right.
At the student union, at the rec center, at the library, where we had laptops already ready to go, banners, signage for anyone. That would include students, staff, faculty, and or a community member on our campus could walk up to one of our kiosks and fill out and complete the census, right? We had those locations with the city and community partners, including the school district, also had their own locations across our region. So unfortunately, those virtual kiosks are no longer an option. So that was the biggest challenge because we were depending on the in-person interaction as well, right? There were hundreds of outreach activities throughout our region, at parks, in clinics, at community centers, promoting the census that unfortunately had to be suspended, right? So I think on the one hand, it became a major challenge. On the other hand, because many of us were already comfortable using social media, social media now and remote and virtual outreach has been our biggest asset right now. So the reason that we're even close to 60%, Provost Jersky, is because students, faculty, staff, community members, community partners have doubled up our efforts to promote the information vis-a-vis social media. So in our office, for example, Provost Jersky, we have daily posts on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, targeting different population segments, but in general, just highlighting that the census is still going on right now. And
really important.
That's right.
And just to let you know that I see quite a few of your posts, and I'm very impressed because I think it's in a way a little bit like the whole university educational endeavor. Nobody wanted or desired to be virtual, but now that we're discovering some positive things that are happening.
Yeah.
And one of the things is that social media are very effective in reaching out to all kinds of people who we might not think are accessible.
That's right. And I'm very proud to say, Provost Jersky, just with our university's commitment to the public good and community engagement, that we have hundreds of students that are still that we're still able to work alongside with community partners. And we had interns with the city of Long Beach, specifically on the census team. We had faculty members partnering with our community partners to, again, make sure that our community knows the importance of the census. So our campus just pivoted to support our community engagement efforts around the census.
Well, that's fantastic to hear, because certainly from my point of view, and I know from the president's point of view, we are laser focused on the census among our many concerns, but we absolutely want the census to represent who we are and make sure that we get the biggest representation we possibly can. So that's terrific. What one thing would you tell faculty, students, or staff about the census so that we can help achieve that goal?
Yes, thank you. It's a great question, and I think although my answer may seem simple, it has massive ramifications. I think the census has always been important for the reasons that you and I have been talking about, but I think given our current COVID-19 context and the pandemic, it highlights many of the inequities that we're still trying to address in our society, namely for our most vulnerable populations. Right? We pride ourselves on our campus in our diversity, but it's exactly those households and those communities that would benefit from an accurate and complete census count, particularly in the challenging times that we're living in right now, Provost Jersky. So I often hear now more than ever, as a sort of cliche-ish, but in this sense, now more than ever, for all of our community members, but particularly the households and the communities that our own staff and faculty and students both live in and commute to and from, are the ones that are most impacted by an accurate and complete census count. So if we're talking specifically about federal and state funding, many of the programs and services that our own students benefit from, schools in general, but specifically our own students, are directly impacted by an accurate census count. So with the budget challenges that many of us are facing, with the workforce challenges that many working families are facing, with the health challenges that our communities at large are facing, our census, it's imperative that all of us get the word out, even if we've completed it. So you and I have completed it, Provost Jersky, but we're using this platform, again, to remind folks that there are many individuals that have yet to be counted. And so I would say that that's the most important thing that we could share with folks right now, that this has a direct impact on the communities that we serve.
Great. And I think just to your point, Juan, people wake up in the morning and sometimes feel, wow, the world is in a mess. We've got this terrible disease threatening us. What positive thing can I do today that will make it better? And what you're telling me is that one thing you can all do is we can answer the census questions.
That's right.
If we've done it, we can tell our neighbor to answer the census question.
That's right. That's right. Or we can pop onto the computer, Provost, and do a quick email blast with my2020census.gov and say, hey, friendly reminder, we can all do this in 5 minutes.
You're right, my2020census.gov. Any language, it's very easy, it's completely secure, and it's crucially important, not only for Long Beach, but for California and the whole nation. That's so here's something we can all do, positive and beneficial, no downside, takes 2 minutes, and it's good for everybody. Juan, I really want to thank you for your positive message. We're all looking for positive reinforcement in these difficult times. And thank you from me and the President for the incredible work that you've done. It really reflects the university's values, and every bit helps, and you have done a huge amount to make this successful. So thank you.
Thank you, Provost Jersky. Thank you for your leadership, and President Connolly. If anyone's interested in our own campus's efforts, right off of our website, we have a census link, of course, and that will redirect you to, I think, two portals. One is what our city's doing in partnership with our campus, but it'll take you right to the my2020census.gov website. So of course, if anyone has any specific questions, they can contact our office at the Center for Community Engagement on our campus. But I think the message that you've made loud and clear today is anyone in the morning or in the evening, if we're struggling to go to sleep, we can certainly remind our family member, a friend, to complete the census.
Yeah. Okay, well, with that great message, we'll say congratulations, Juan, for your work to date. We look forward to a fabulous and successful Census 2020, and go Beach.
Go Beach. Thank you, Provost.
Yeah. Thanks, Juan.